please feel free to continue eating your dessert and have coffee. We're going to proceed with the rest of our ceremony. I suspect many people in the room are here tonight because athletics has in some way positively influenced and impacted their lives. You might be here because you're connected to one of the inductees, or maybe you're a fan of W&L athletics, or maybe you're a former W&L athlete. Whatever the case may be, I want to thank you again for being here tonight. None of us can do this alone, and as you well know, coaches are famous for saying there's no I in team. And they say it because it's true. There is no I in team. It takes all of us. And I want you to know how grateful we are to everyone here for your support, and that you made the time and the effort to be here tonight to share this in this celebration of athletics and athletic achievement at W&L. We couldn't do it without you. I'd like to draw your attention to a few folks who are in attendance tonight who are special to us because of their extraordinary support of the university and athletics. Provost Juna Prilly. Former Director of Athletics and Special Assistant to the Vice President of Development, Mike Walsh. Former Director of Athletics, Chuck O'Connell, who will not stand. And Faculty Athletic Representative and Chair of the University Athletic Committee, Professor Ellen Mayock. Also with us tonight are some of our current athletes and current captains of our teams. We take great pride in who they are and how they represent Washington and Lee, so I would ask if you are an athlete, a captain, if you would stand so we can recognize you. And I want you to know they're not only great athletes, they're incredible students. Last year there was a record of 223 student athletes who earned a 3.5 GPA or better. And we're called W&L Scholar Athletes. It's pretty amazing. If you look through this evening's program, you'll find the bios of all our Hall of Fame inductees, past and present. We're thrilled to have some of those folks celebrating with us tonight, and I'd like to recognize them. I'd ask that you please stand as I call your name, and I'd appreciate it if we could just hold our applause till we've recognized everyone. Ted Bauer, class of 1974. Skeet Chadwick, class of 1974. Pat Dennis, class of 1978. Barton Dick, class of 1962. Football team 1961 inductees. Don Evanson, class of 1973. Jack Emmer. Sam Engelhart, class of 1973. Jim Farrer, class of 1974. Tom Keegler, class of 1977. Mike Neer, class of 1970. And Dave Warfield, class of 1975. We thank you for being here with us. And now it's my pleasure to call upon Bo Dudley, class of 1974-1979 Law, Executive Director of Alumni Affairs, to present our inductees. Bo?
Thank you, Jan, and it's always a thrill and a highlight of our year in Alumni Affairs to participate in the Hall of Fame banquet. It's sentimental, it's special, it's emotional, and it's inspirational for everybody on this campus to watch the kind of feelings that are generated on this night. So it's my pleasure to induct these four fine athletes by reading their citations. We'll proceed in alphabetical order. Here we go. Karen Treese Bauer, class of 1996. Karen Treese Bauer was a phenomenal three-sport athlete for the Generals, earning a total of 8 letters as a member of the basketball, lacrosse, and soccer teams. Universally known simply as Treese, I'm told to the extent that some people may not even have known her real name was Karen. She was recruited by then soccer and lacrosse coach, now athletic director, Jan Hathorn, to play soccer for the Generals. I really got to know her and her family during the recruiting process. I knew that I would love to have her. She was one of the first athletes that I recruited when I said to myself, this is the real deal. A great player and a person of great character. You could just tell it in the way she carried herself. While recruited to be a soccer player, she excelled in other sports as well. She played 3 seasons of basketball and served as a student assistant coach in her senior season. She earned 2 letters after playing in 38 career games as a guard and led the team in assists as a first-year player. At Coach Hathorn's urging, Karen picked up a lacrosse stick prior to her junior season and earned a pair of letters after playing in 28 games as a defender and posting 18 points on 10 goals and 8 assists. I wanted her to play lacrosse because I knew that she could not only pick it up, but she could excel, said Coach Hathorn. By the end, she was a lacrosse player, and she did a great deal for the lacrosse program in just those 2 years. But Treese Bauer really forged her legacy here on the soccer field. A 4-year letter winner and twice team captain, she played in all 63 games, starting 56 as a forward. When all was said and done, she was the program's all-time leading scorer with 167 points. Her 72 goals remain the program record, while her 23 assists still rank 4th all-time. She was deceptively fast, says former teammate and current associate AD Shayna Levine. She didn't really look fast, but she always got by defenders, and they couldn't catch her. She also had a nose for the goal, and she made everyone around her a better player. She was one of the first truly great women's players, and she enabled us to begin competing regularly for conference titles. Treese Bauer helped lead the Generals to 47 wins during her 4 years with the soccer program, setting a new program record for wins twice in a season. She was a natural athlete and a born leader, recalls former teammate Elizabeth Ritchie Thompson. I think that her quick wit, her humility, and her willingness to kind of put herself out there made her a favorite and an inspiration to her teammates. And so the accolades poured in. She was a 4-time All-Conference selection, 3-time All-South Region honoree, and a 2-time All-State pick. She is also remembered as a great teammate and person. I think humility was her best attribute, recalls teammate Richie Thompson. She is willing to try anything and to work hard at whatever she chooses to do. And at the same time, she's the first one who's willing to laugh at herself. Coach Hathorn also remembers that she had a bit of a mischievous streak. But that being said, under pressure, she got it. She had an athlete's IQ, and she loved nothing more than being in the heat of competition on the field with her teammates. The Washington and Lee Outstanding Freshman Female Athlete in 1996, Treese Bauer finished her tremendous career by being named the Washington and Lee Outstanding Senior Female Athlete in 1999. Those who knew her best always felt that her strength and drive to be the best came from her brother Kevin. Kevin had muscular dystrophy, and it often seemed like she was driven to play because he could not, Richie Thompson recalls. He and her parents came to so many games, and I know she was an inspiration for all of them. She never took anything for granted, and she always worked hard. Coach Hathorn agrees. She understands very well that it's not all about her. She is so caring about others. I can only hope that I'm half the sister that she was to Kevin. She is an exceptional woman, and she made Washington Lee a better place. Karen Treese Bauer, three-sport star, top-flight student athlete, we proudly and humbly induct you into the Washington and Lee Athletic Hall of Fame. Congratulations, and please come forward.
Wow. Thank you all for coming tonight. It's quite an honor to be here to accept this award. In preparing for this, I went down into the basement and I have this big box full of memorabilia from my time here. Pictures, newspaper articles, scrapbooks, spirit things that the team used to put in the locker room. So I went through just trying to stir up some memories and some things to talk about tonight, and it was actually really fun to do. So I wanted to share a couple of the things that I came across, a couple of the memories that stick out in my mind with you all tonight. I think the first memory was scoring my first collegiate goal. We were at Kane College, now University in New Jersey, and we got our butts kicked 7-1, but I got the one on a penalty kick, so it was stuck in my mind that I do remember scoring my first collegiate goal. I think I set my first record on the basketball court. It was a consecutive free throw record that has since been broken, long time. But my high school basketball coach will never let me forget that was my first record, even though soccer was my passion. I forgot my soccer cleats at ODAX my sophomore year at Randolph-Macon, and I remember my dad having to drive me around Ashland to try to find a pair of cleats for the game. So that was... We made it to the ODAC tournament in basketball my sophomore year, which I believe was a first also for the program. It's memorable. As mentioned in my introduction, discovering my ability to run on the lacrosse field, on the soccer field with the ball at my feet. I think Shayna described it as deceptively fast. I don't even know that I would use fast as an adjective for myself, but with a lacrosse stick, I didn't have the ball at my feet. So I remember I came off the field in one game and Jan was like, wow, Treese can really run. So we played a basketball game, I believe it was my sophomore year, with 5 players, and we won. We beat Randolph-Macon. The ODAC championship that I was lucky enough to be a part of for lacrosse, and I was with an amazing group of senior leaders. That was one of the memories that stuck out in my mind. Being asked mid-season to learn how to play goalie for the lacrosse team because our goalie had gotten injured. So I learned quickly that I preferred being on the other side of the ball than having those little hard white balls coming at you. And I think one of the memories that sticks out most in my mind was my turnaround volley goal from the top of the box that gave us a 2-1 victory over Randolph-Macon Parents Weekend my senior year. I think that's the one thing that truly sticks out in my mind. But there's so many more, but I have some people that I need to thank for being a part of this wonderful journey. First, I need to thank my parents for everything, for being probably the most caring, generous, and loving people that I know. Thanks for the thousands of miles you put on the car, driving me to tournaments and games and everything through the years. And to my father for making it to almost every one of my collegiate soccer games. To my grandparents, they're one of the major reasons I was able to attend WNL. My grandfather was one of my biggest fans. I loved it when I talked to him on the phone or got a letter from him in the mail because he always addressed it, "Hey, General." And I was definitely one of his #1 fans. And coincidentally, this is actually the weekend of the 5-year anniversary of his death, so I know he's with us tonight. To Coach Nichols, thanks for fostering my passion for the game of soccer. We certainly have come a long way from me being the only girl in your entire soccer camp over 27 years ago to you taking over the girls program when I was in high school. to me helping coach with you after I graduated from college, and now to 10 years later that my husband and I are both coaching with you. I couldn't think of a better person to want to spend all that time with, and I can't tell you how much you've impacted my life through the years. To Jan, thanks for encouraging me to come to W&L. I don't think I would have been here if it hadn't been for you. And for a very memorable 4 years, it was full of joy and encouragement, success, and lasting memories. Thanks also for introducing me to lacrosse. I only wish I would have listened to you sooner and played all 4 years. And thanks for letting me convince you to order Adidas soccer uniforms. To Coach Walsh for all the support for Miss Treese in my every endeavor, and for the ride home from the Bridgewater basketball game so that I could finish up a school project that I had due the next day. To Eric, my cousin, for introducing me to the school and for the family support. To Phil Sigler for being a great big brother while I was here and for being my hometown connection as well. And to all of my friends, some of whom are here tonight and surprised me, and some who couldn't make it: Richie, Parker, Zeb, Amber, Grattan, Steph, Ginny, Corey, Brooke, Ansley, Shayna, Courtney. One of the most amazing things about my time at W&L was the quality of people that you were surrounded with on a daily basis. I'm thankful for every one of my friends, my professors, my coaches, my teammates. Thank you for all the memories and the lifelong relationships. And to my family, my husband Keith and the kids, Ellie and Kyle, who are being surprisingly good at the moment. You have brought me into the next chapter of my life, and I look forward to supporting them in their every endeavor. And lastly, I have to thank my biggest fan, who would be the proudest of all that I was standing here tonight, my big brother and guardian angel, Kevin. So I have a quote that I wanted to share with you. You may have heard it before. Life is not measured by the number of breaths you take, it's measured by the number of moments that take your breath away. And I have to say, this honor, along with so many others from my time here at W&L, have taken my breath away. And congrats to all the other inductees, and I'm grateful to be part of the history of such a fine institution. Thanks.
Coach Vern Canfield. Vern Canfield's impact on the men's basketball program was certainly as grand as any coach to ever lead the blue and white at Washington and Lee. He arrived here in 1964 as the head coach of men's basketball and, perhaps less well-known, men's tennis. He coached the tennis team for 6 seasons and led the Generals to a 44-19 overall record. As a basketball coach, Vern Canfield made a lasting mark at Washington and Lee. He took over a program that was coming off of 7 straight losing seasons and guided it to a 20-win season in just his 3rd year. That was the first of 22 winning seasons in his 31-year career here at W&L. He finished with 460 wins, the most in program history. His 1976-77 team, led by All-American and Hall of Famer Pat Dennis, still holds the W&L record for wins in a season with 23. Additionally, Coach Canfield won 9 conference championships. He coached 26 players to first-team all-conference honors. 6 players were named All-Americans during his tenure. One of his most accomplished players is here tonight and recalls fondly his experience playing for Canfield. "I just loved my time playing at W&L," says fellow Hall of Famer Mike Neer, class of 1970. "I had great teammates, and Vern was a dedicated and thorough teacher. He was meticulous in his organization, and we always felt well prepared." Current Southwestern University head men's basketball coach Bill Raleigh was an assistant coach under Canfield late in his career here, and he notes the extreme care that Canfield took in his own development. "He was concerned with making me better. He gave me my start He took a chance on me, and I'm lucky that he did. The opportunities he gave me were invaluable, and no matter what was going on, he always made a point to develop me as a coach. That willingness to help is underscored by Near, whom, as many of you know, went on to win over 500 games and a Division III national championship as head coach at Rochester University. Mike puts it this way: in my early years as head coach, I discovered that there was a lot that I didn't know I didn't know. I was frustrated. I was losing confidence. So over the course of the year, I called him 3, 4, or 5 times. He always had time for me, and he listened. He talked me off the ledge on several occasions. Rather than give me answers, as great teachers do, he asked questions, which allowed me to see things more clearly and find my own way out of the maze. His greatest gift was his counsel, his willingness and ability to listen, to question, and even at times to challenge. I attribute much of our program's success and my longevity to Vern Canfield's influence and support, and I will always be grateful. It was that same teaching mentality that Bill Raleigh recalls from his first practice under Canfield. Now, in truth, perhaps all coaches are teachers, but especially so here at Washington and Lee. Raleigh says he was like a professor in class. He had this podium with wheels on it, and he pushed it around. And he kept his practice plan and all of his notes on it. At first, I was like, oh man, what is it with this guy? But eventually, I figured it out, because he was always trying to teach, and that tool made it easier for him to do so. His influence is felt in a current generation of coaches like Near, Raleigh, and former All-American Pat Dennis at the Citadel, all of whom have excelled. A former member of the National Association of Basketball Coaches D3 Congress, Canfield has received the association's Award of Merit and its Award of Honor. He was named the Virginia D3 Coach of the Year in 1976 and earned conference and NCAA D3 Regional Coach of the Year awards on 3 separate occasions. Coach Vern Canfield, on behalf of 31 years of grateful players and respectful opponents, we salute your long and impressive career, and we welcome you to the Washington and Lee Athletic Hall of Fame. Please come forward.
Where in the world did you get this picture? My goodness, you had sideburns down to here. You don't know how it is to stand up in something like this. You don't know the feelings that you have. I'm as nervous as I can be because I've spent the last 4 months trying to figure out, what am I going to say? What don't say? Take the high road, say class, don't mention this, whoops. I just sat at a table and heard another speech that I could give, just the stories that they have told. This is what it's all about. I'm so appreciative as I look out, there's about 28 of my former players looking right at me, just waiting for me to make a mistake. Just waiting. It is just an extreme honor of pride, certainly a mixture of humility, a gratitude feeling. For me, it was a little bit of a surprise. I had dreamt about it, but as time went on, the dream seemed to fade away. Then it happened. It means so much to me because it's kind of a cap of my career. Now, when you say cap of career, that sounds like you're through. But I'm not through. I'm still coaching. But at Washington Lee, I spent 31 years as a head coach, 41 years on the faculty. I've seen some changes. I've seen some changes in buildings. I've seen some changes in attitude. It was my privilege to be the basketball coach at Washington Lee University. I'm very proud of these young men. It's no secret all the athletes at Washington Lee are successful, aren't they? If I could list the success that my guys have had, it's overwhelming. I hope I had some part in that, because as you've heard it mentioned, I take a lot of pride in being a teacher rather than a coach. I think there are too many coaches in the world, quite frankly. Anyone who puts a name on their shirt thinks of themselves as a coach. And certainly it's not winning and losing. I'm sure I share this with other coaches. You can listen to the athletes. They don't talk about winning and losing. They don't remember the scores. They remember the fun times that they had, the dumb things the coach did, whatever it might be. There's a special friendship, a special bonding. So I took 31 years and tried to recall, reflect, remember what's good, what's bad, what's funny, what is, bumps in the road. And I came up with some things that I want to share with you. First of all, let me tell you this, that basketball and coaching is my life. It still is. It's my passion. That's why I'm starting my 54th year of coaching this year. And you right away say, because most people do, and they say you're 77, and they kind of look at you out of the corner of the eye, why are you still coaching? Aha, glad you asked. There's 3 reasons. 1, I'm doing what I think God wants me to do. 2, I think I can make a difference still. And I get in with this one. I enjoy what I'm doing. How about you? Think about it. You enjoy. I don't mean every day, but I enjoy teaching, seeing a young man start with no skills and be able to teach basic, but to see them grow as people, to see my guys grow as husbands and fathers and successful in their profession. That's what it's all about. It's not those 460 wins. Trust me. It's not about the championships. A coach. All of you have had some influence, I hope, by a coach. It drove my parents wild to think, you want to be a coach? Now, in the days, here's how you had to picture a coach. We start with the gut. Has to be there. Nothing personal, coaches. Okay? A big sweatshirt that always had coach across the front, in case you forgot what you were. Always a baseball cap, and mandatory whistle, kind of a slouch, and a semi-intelligent look. That was coach. But there's a coach that was influencing your life somewhere along. It takes time. He left something with you. He had a difference. He made a difference in your life. 46 years ago, after coaching in high school successfully, I had this dream to become a college coach. I read in the paper that the coach at Washington Lee had resigned after, as you heard, 7 straight losing seasons. I thought, hey, I know something about this game. I'll write a letter and say I'm interested. Sure enough, I got a letter back, invite me down for an interview. All they did was take me out to the old Southern Inn and feed me. That was it. Thanks for coming. We'll be in touch. I thought, well, that was kind of short and sweet. Got a letter. Come on down. We want to offer you the job. Because we heard you are a winner. You are a winner. We had checked. You are a winner. Well, pack it up, down to Lexington. I will show them just how much of a winner I am. We worked really hard that first year, came up with a robust 2-17. Wow. I'm sure the people that had heard he's a winner had some doubts there. But I told them in the 3 years, we'll give you a winner, we'll give you a championship with 20. Now that's things that you say when you're hired at a job. We won 10 the second, third year we won 20. That first couple of years, I inherited a bunch of young men, some of them are retired by now, who were used to losing. Worked hard, but just were used to losing. I had to start recruiting some people that had that winning attitude, knew what it took to be a winner. And we started turning around with their commitment. Now going back to these memories. Now remember, I'm one of these, I can't remember which team, which year, or anything else. I'm doing good to remember names. I will not mention many names tonight because I don't want to leave someone out. After 31 years, now I envy these other people. They only had 4 years to recover. I had 31. And there's bumps in the road and there's everything else. But I want to share some things with you that are important to me. I think the guys will understand. And if you ever get them in a corner, they'll tell you all kinds of stories. I was writing some other notes down there during the meeting because I'd forgot some of these things. So their memory was great. Even though these guys, did you know that every one of my guys made the dean's list while they're at Washington Lee? Little known fact. And I'll tell you how they did that. Don't clap yet till you hear it. We had selective scheduling. Now you get that professor and that's something you really like. Let's take it all one semester and let's get the dean's list. The rest of your life, no one will ask you how many semesters you were on the dean's list. You were a dean's list student at Washington Lee. Pretty impressive. Now you can clap if you want. Now we go back to some of that memories. That first year in Doremus, playing in Doremus gym that had one light in the middle of the floor, courtesy of Dick Miller, the wrestling coach, so it shined down his mat, and there were light bulbs at the end. Light bulbs. We brought in bleachers for the football team to sit at the end and at halftime they changed ends so they could encourage the referee when they came underneath the basket. We also had the ladies sitting on the track with the legs hanging over. We didn't lose very often in Doremus. A home court advantage. Then they started talking about Warner Center. I can remember showing prospects a picture of new Warner Center. Did it for 4 years. I had guys that came for 4 years looking at the picture of Warner Center, wondering was it ever going to come about. It finally did, and we had a chance to play people like Virginia, Navy, those kind of people. So I remember these things. I remember going first class. I remember playing in 27 or 28 states, traveling and playing. I remember playing and traveling in 8 countries. I remember our first European trip, where my young men had been told there were 87 brands of beer in Europe. Now, Coach, do you have a training rule? Well, maybe it doesn't apply in Europe. We'll see. Talk about don't tell. They didn't tell me. I didn't ask. I remember being ranked 4th in the nation. I remember averaging 15 wins and 10 losses for 31 years. I remember working for 5 presidents and 6 athletic directors. Each had their own agenda, their own way of doing things, their own expectations, and for the most part, I got excellent support. But each one we had to kind of key in. But I have seen some changes here that's unbelievable. This is a very special place. Don't ever forget it, please. One thing I have to mention, and people say, oh, don't talk about that. I have to mention the Boxwoods. The Boxwoods. We got to deal with the Boxwoods. We had a great game and just kicked the tail out of Hampton-Sydney. What better team. Well, my guys decided to set a new long jump record that night, and they jumped into dadgum Boxwoods. Not a good decision, kind of dumb. It cost them money, and it cost some players some eligibility, including one of our All-Americans who's now an orthopedic surgeon. It was a hard lesson to learn, but there's a sequel to that. Hang on, we'll get it sooner or later, because we went over to Sydney and beat them again with people waving Boxwoods over the huddle. Yeah, it was the origin of In Your Face. It started right then. As a coach, my memories of my first recruiting trip, drove 2 days in a station wagon, snowed out for 2 days, and the kid was 6'2", weighed 230. Someone gave me some awfully good advice. I shook his hand and drove back. We developed a locker room that was first class. We wanted to develop a basketball program in those days. My colleagues said, what's a program? Well, everybody has a program now. We developed a basketball program with a commitment of some young people. I had individual meetings, and if you ask all 28 of these guys here tonight, they hated going to an individual meeting with Coach. Well, let's tell him what he wants to hear this time. I happen to know that 12 of my guys that went into coaching, they had individual meetings too. So it must have worked. And I can remember asking them, well, what do you think you're going to be doing 10 years from now? And they give, who knows, Coach? Where do you want to be living? I don't know. Now I think it's come to roost just a little bit. They understand some of these things we were talking about. One of the things I also remember is I never missed a practice. Practice was extremely important to me. I still got the practice plans. Now, figure that out. Why am I keeping 31 years of practice plans? I haven't got the heart to throw them away. But they're there. Practice was important. In all honesty, I think I was a better practice coach than a game coach. I love preparation. I wanted the guys to be prepared. I remember this that the players did for me that'll always go down as something very special. They roasted me in 1995. Now, if you've ever had the pleasure of being roasted, you can understand this. That's where they just really rip you up one side and down the other and make fun of you and remember all those dumb things you did. But they'll never know how important that was to me. I was treated to a real show, but the fact that they made the effort to be here and do that, just like the 28 that are here tonight, that means so much to me. But on this, if you just share this with, let me share this with. Thanks, Coach, for the memories, the lessons, the fun, for making a difference in our lives. That's the key right there, making a difference. For giving your all. We celebrate your 31 years as our coach, our teacher, and our mentor. 85 signature on that thing. Thanks for making a difference. That's why I'm still doing it. Individually, now no names now, just some incidents came, and I just picked up quite a few more here. If you eliminate the 6 guys that are in the Hall of Fame, but now let me suggest to you, I hope the selection committee is here because later on I got to thank you, but I want you to think about something. Those 6 guys you have in the Hall of Fame are all shooters and scorers. You need a point guard with that group. I got 2 that live in Pennsylvania I'll recommend for you. They can put it together on that. Those shooters got to have, someone's got to have the ball. So be thinking about that, selection committee, please. I do have the top 8. My wife doesn't even know the top 8. It goes in the casket with me, a little piece of paper. These are the coaches' top 8. These are the guys that I'd go to war with. May not have been gifted, may not have been All-American. I'd go to war with those 8. Now, you need 5 starters, and you need 3 subs, role players. I have my top 8. You guys here figure out who it is. Now, here's some individual things. The guy who could mimic everything I said and every mannerism I had. Never knew I had so many. He just retired as a basketball coach. You remember that Boxwood game at Hampton, Sydney? Our 6'7" center? We're down by 1 point at Sydney now. Now remember, Boxwood's over. 4 seconds to go, and I'm saying, all right, now I'm going to coach. I'm going to coach now, 4 seconds to go. You brought him over there. Whoever gets the ball, turn and shoot. Brilliant. Krzyzewski wants to know that one. The most unlikely guy in the gym, our 6-foot center who rarely shot away from the block, grabbed the ball with his back to the basket, made a real nice rear pivot, turned and shot. And you knew it was going in. And we won. And that was one of the greatest moments. Because I remember 3 teams. My first championship team, the Boxwood championship team, and my sophomore Layton team. Those are 3 that I just remember more. But some teams were so easy to work with, so coachable. Some individuals were coachable. Some you enjoyed being around, some you didn't. But let me tell you right now, there's about 4 or 5 players I would love to have another chance with them. I didn't do a good job with them. See, I used to be extremely intense. Oh, you listen to the story, extremely. I hated to lose, be number 1, all that. I mean, when we lost and you happened to ride with me, I wouldn't talk with you for 24 hours. We used to drive in station wagons. And someone, this is for seat belts, had to sit in the middle next to Coach. They used to stand up from my, oh, I don't want to sit there. Who's the first one? You got to sit next to Coach because he's not going to talk. And we went to Lynchburg one time, came back and had a flat tire right in the middle of the mountain. Could not get that thing fixed. We finally got a spare one. I couldn't get the hubcap on. Somewhere in the mountains of Lynchburg, there's still a hubcap laying from that station wagon. We've come a long ways from those station wagons. There was a player when I was in the old job. I used to have this way, when you messed up, once I really fussed at you and messed up, I'd say, get on the line. That meant doing this. One day with the line, and a kid collapsed on the floor. One of my Polish freshmen from Pennsylvania said, Coach, get a bag, let him breathe into it. I didn't know what to do. He did. One day we were beating some team, we were just kicking them. And we were up by 30, everyone had been in the game twice, but one guy. One guy. He's sitting on the bench with his jacket all pulled up. I don't think his parents today understand, how come Canfield didn't put him in? We didn't put him in because he didn't have a jersey on. He had this big hairy chest and we wanted it covered up. He couldn't go in the game. One of my 6'5" forwards who, remember I had a lot of meetings, I always felt I can't coach you unless I know you. Did I treat my players the same? No. Why? Because they're not alike. Why teach them? We didn't even have rules. We had guidelines. Don't break a guideline because it's about the same thing as a rule. A little different thinking. But I tried to treat them, they needed something different from me. Whether it's counseling or whatever it was, this kid came in and he was really having trouble. Really having trouble. And we've been talking, I said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to miss practice today. I want you to take a 6-pack and go out and watch the sunset. Came back next day, had a great career the rest of the time. That's coaching. Then I remember this big guy who we lovingly called, he couldn't walk and chew gum. So sometimes when he's in the way, we had him jump rope. One day, so-and-so, go jump rope. Forgot about him. 45 minutes later, he's still over there jumping rope. But you know, that year, he scored the winning basket against Roanoke College. I remember a young man, seniors were very special. I think the coaches in the audience will appreciate this too. When you have a senior, it's been with you 4 years, he's pretty special. Pretty special guy. He's going to make it in this world. This one young man, 4 years, never, ever started except that traditional senior game. Never complained, whatever it took, successful contractor in Florida. Some of the things that Coach did. Now, one of the things that's very special to me is I rarely will a player even call me by my first name. Other names, but not first name. Coach. Coach is extremely important to me. That's sacred. God called me to be a coach. That's why I'm still coaching. Coach. It means responsibility, but it means opportunity. Kids nowadays need that. And you've heard, if you've been around me any minute at all, you say, you'll hear this, the most overrated thing in life now is retirement. Retire to something, don't just quit. You've been doing something for 35 to 40 years, and you've accumulated this knowledge, and you can't... See, all of you are smarter than me. But with a few exceptions, I got more wisdom than most of you, because I've made more mistakes. And I want to learn from them. That's why I'm trying to be a mentor to some young coaches who sometimes don't want it, but nonetheless, they're going to get it. Give something. So here's some things that Stern Vern did. I heard that one. Or Big V, Silent E, among other things. I'm sure if I ask this table here, they could come up with a couple more names, but we won't do that. The day that I backed up, now I was intense, and backed into a fan and kicked the fan to make a point, caught my foot in the fan. Couldn't get it out of the fan and still gave that pep talk. They were trying to keep from laughing. Some of them didn't. The time I hit a blackboard to make a point, and there was a brick wall behind that sucker, and my hand started to swell, so I just held it behind me and stepped motivating. These are things. The time I kicked the water cooler, and my manager standing right next to it, it spurted up, he stood right there, and it rained whatever we were drinking, and my hand stood right there. Didn't make anything. I heard a couple others when I threw some oranges in the shower. Guys, I'm mellow now. I wouldn't do those things. I do it another way. They don't believe that. I told you about that. The one thing, the assistant did this. You heard about the little thing, it's a little table with things on it. Well, right now I lean on it. You know, like the old people do. But it's Betsy. She's been with me every year I coached. Every year. I have a cup sitting there. Man, I had it filled with coffee. I had an assistant coach that chewed, had his cup there. You know the rest of the story, don't you? I picked up the wrong cup. Took a swig. Players are so special. I wish I could tell each one of these guys how much I love them, how much I appreciate what they did, because we always talked about not I, me, and my. We talked about us, we, and our. Us, we, and our. This is a team win, not mine. A team win. I cared for them. I care about their future. I love getting Christmas cards from them to see their kids. I love to see how successful they are as husbands and fathers. That's what coaching is all about, to see that. I hope I had a little something there to do with it. I congratulate you guys on your success. I'm very, very proud of you. I hope I can keep doing that and leaving some imprint with people. Thanks for putting up with me, my moods, well, once in a while moods, my intensity, but you knew I cared for you, and I worked at it. It was very special. A gratitude to the administration for hiring me, for some colleagues in the early days that were very important to me. Norm Lord, Dick Miller, Joe Lyles, Boyd Williams, Bill McHenry. Some colleagues now in my latter part, Coaches Mariello, Stickley, Frankie. Hope I don't forget anyone here. Coach Fallon, Carolyn, our secretary, best secretary in the school. Oh no, excuse me, administrative assistant now, whatever that new name is there. I'm sure I've left Coach Frankie. This is both ends of the careers. I want to thank my assistant coaches. I had 5 assistant coaches that went on to become head basketball coaches on the college level, 5 of them. Hopefully a little bit of me went with them. That's what it's all about. That's a mentoring situation. I demanded a lot from them. They gave you a lot of input. They're part of this us, we, and our. I also want to thank what we call that big group of support people. The trainer, the SID, the custodian, the managers, the captains. These are extremely important people. It's all part of us, we and our. Special thanks for my wife and my family for the encouragement and support. A thanks to the Lord for giving me the opportunity as in whatever ability I have. Thanks to the selection committee. On behalf of us, we, and our, we accept this honor. Thank you.
Can I take this?
Donald G. Carroll, class of 1976. Don Carroll was a fierce competitor and one of the top offensive threats on our most successful lacrosse teams when Washington and Lee played in Division I against all of the signature programs in the sport in the 1970s. Fondly remembered as Deese by his teammates, Carroll was a 4-year letter winner for the Generals and a team captain on the 1975 and 76 squads. Deese led by example, says former teammate and fellow Hall of Famer Tom Keegler. He was always in great shape. He hustled all the time, whether it was in practice or in games. He came onto the scene here in 1973, helping lead W&L to the semifinals of the NCAA Division I tournament and a 14-1 record by finishing 6th on the team in scoring with 39 points. As a sophomore in 1974, Carroll again helped lead the Generals to the semifinals of the NCAA Division I tournament and within an eyelash of playing for the Division I national title. No one who was a Washington and Lee player or fan will ever forget that season. They had a 15-1 record, and Carroll was second on the team with 61 points. His former teammate and All-American defender, also Hall of Famer Jim Farah, says this: Donnie didn't really have great pure speed, but he was incredibly quick. His rocker step move was simply impossible to defend. It almost always allowed him to get his hands free for a shot. He was just a nightmare to defend. Don was a standout player for his first 2 seasons, but in his last 2, he elevated his game. Coach Jack Emmer says that the 1975 season opener was the game when Don fully stepped into his leadership role. During the game, I asked him to take the offensive lead. After the game, he told me he didn't really realize that he was now the go-to guy. But from that point on, it was a role he fully accepted and carried out, both on and off the field. His final 2 years were among the very best offensive seasons in school history. As a junior in 1975, he ranked 3rd in all of collegiate lacrosse and 3rd in school history with 85 points on 40 goals and a school record 45 assists. Keegler says Deese was the most unselfish player I ever played with. He took great delight in making his teammates look good, let them get the glory. He was more than content to have the assist instead of the goal. He garnered first-team All-South Atlantic Region and Honorable Mention All-America honors during his junior season. That was the first and remains the only season in which a W&L men's player posted 40 goals and 40 assists in one season. As a senior in 1976, Don Carroll again led the team in scoring and garnered first-team All-South Atlantic Region and Honorable Mention All-America laurels for the 2nd straight season. He was also selected to the 1976 North-South All-Star Game as a team captain for the South. Coach Emmer says Don was the epitome of consistency. He was a steady player, and you just knew you could always turn to him on the field and to lead. He completed his lacrosse career with a then school record 234 points, a total which still ranks second all-time at Washington and Lee now, 35 years later. He enters the Hall of Fame tonight as Washington and Lee's all-time career assist leader with 131, and his 103 goals put him in the top 10 on that list. He also holds a pair of top individual game performances. Think about this. His 7 assists in a 1975 game are tied for the second best ever in school history, and his 11 total points against Duke in 1975 are tied for the third most ever here. Keegler says he was smooth, not flashy. In addition to being an assist machine, he was a complete player. He scored 100 career goals and was versatile. He played both attack and midfield. Coach Emmer adds he was a unique player. He had the ability to lead the team in scoring, but he just blended in. He always preferred to be in the background and did not bring attention to himself. He did a great job leading the Generals in that way. Don Carroll, Deese, class of 1976, we salute your talents and your 4-year contributions to that magical era of lacrosse at Washington and Lee. Congratulations on your well-deserved induction into the Athletic Hall of Fame. Please come up.
My family was asking me if I was nervous before, and I was like, no. Halfway through that little speech by Bo, I'm like shaking in my boots. So I'm going to the notes. Good evening. Well, I've attended a lot of these Hall of Fame banquets. I think this is like my 14th I've been to. But this is the first time I brought my family instead of a cooler full of beer. Sorry, guys. As always, it's great to be here in Lexington. I would like to sincerely thank the selection committee for its consideration. I'm grateful and I'm honored. Allow me to congratulate my fellow inductees, Karen Bauer, Treese, Coach Canfield, and Robert Hull on their induction. I am proud to be a part of the class of 2010. I'd like to also thank my family, my friends, and teammates for being here. I'm honored that you have taken the time to join us on this occasion. Okay, now it's flashback time. This is good. 21 years ago yesterday, the effects of Hurricane Hugo passed through Lexington after having devastated Charleston, South Carolina earlier in the day. I think a fair number of people in this room were here then. I remember driving down here with my wife, Linda, that Friday, and as we got onto I-81 right at Stevens City, we looked south and saw the most ominous sky we'd ever seen in our lives. I mean, it was creepy. And we just looked, and you could see the rain moving from east to west, and like 2 to 3 feet of water gushing down the sides of the highway. And the 2-foot-tall grass on the median strips was like, completely blown down and flattened down. I mean, it was unbelievable. And we didn't know whether we should stop or, until it passed or just, keep on going. Well, we had to get to Lexington because that night was the banquet for the first of my teammates' inductions into the W&L Hall of Fame. If memory serves, it was at the Cadet General, not here. Is that right, Jim? Do you remember? Yes.
Correct, Doug.
Okay. The power was out when we got there, so that meant no hair dryer for my wife after her shower. And she was not a happy camper. Fortunately for all of us, though, the power came back on before the banquet. Yeah. That night began a pretty darn good run for my teammates from 1973 to 1976. Skip Lickfuss was inducted that night in 1989. Ted Bauer, 93. Ski Chadwick, 94. I think I got this right, guys. Sam Engelhart, 95. Tom Kigler in 98. Rob Lindsay in 99. Coach Jack Emmer was inducted in 04. Don Evanson in 05. Jim Farrer in 06. Charlie Brown in 07. And Dave Warfield in 08. Boy, with those names, we could field one heck of a team. With my induction tonight, we'd have 3 attackmen, 3 defensemen, Coach Emmer, Skeet in the goal, and Charlie Brown could run midfield with Teddy and Skip. He just loved midfield. Most of them are here tonight. Those people, along with every other one of my teammates, helped make all of my achievements possible, and I could not have done it without them. At this time, I'd like to ask all of my teammates and coaches and trainers to please stand up and be recognized. Could you all please stand up? Everybody. I know there's a bunch of you here. Thank you. Thank you all. There were so many great things about playing lacrosse at W&L back in those days. There was Friendly Wilson Field, Lefty Lloyd Newell, the fans, winning 14 straight in 1973, winning 15 straight in 1974, beating Hopkins in 1975, and going to the NCAA tournament 4 straight years, back when only the top 8 nationally ranked teams played. I think they got like 30 of them now or something, I don't know. Watching our teams score approximately 930 goals in 4 years that I played, that's a lot. And then there was walking around campus on Mondays between classes and having people you didn't even know come up and congratulate you on Saturday's win. I mean, the feeling was indescribable. I mentioned the fans and beating Hopkins. Yeah. My brother was at that game, and he sat in on the visitor side, and he took a picture of me after the game with a telephoto lens camera. They were like brand new back then. Big, long, thing. And in the background, there were all W&L fans storming the field. There weren't any Hopkins fans storming the field that day. And there weren't just a few dozen W&L fans. I mean, there were tons of them. And they all made an 8-hour round trip to Baltimore, all for the love of W&L lacrosse. It was great. I'll never forget the bus rides, the songs, the pranks. I'll digress here just briefly. There were 2 pranks I remember that were probably the best. One, turn around, one involved Jim Farrer and Coach Emmer concerning a summer lacrosse camper named Nelms Crickmuir. I think that was his name. And the other one, I think Rave, you and I pulling a prank on Jay Sindler on our spring trip. That's probably the funniest one I remember, giving him the nickname Ooh Man. We can talk about that one later. But we had some good pranks. The nicknames, everybody seemed to have at least 2, 3, and I won't go through them because it would take hours. But most of all, the steak and eggs training meals and Fruit Loops for Brian Chasney, compliments of Jerry Darrell. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, we look forward to that. That was awesome. Then there was practice. We did monkey rolls. We did over-unders. We didn't even know what over-unders were, but we did them. We laughed at Charlie Steve doing jumping jacks. We ran and ran, and then we ran some more. Hearing the words "Midi runs" or 440s or "Streets of Lexington" would just send chills up your spine. But Coach Emmer pushed every one of us to be the best we could be, and it paid off. It made for some great memories for all of us. In closing, I'd like to thank my teammates, my coaches, my friends, and my family for their support. I will always be grateful for everything W&L has afforded me. I could not be more honored to be included in the Hall of Fame. Thank you.
Finally, and far from least, Robert C. Hull, class of 1996. Robert Hull was a three-sport athlete at Washington and Lee, participating in football, wrestling, and lacrosse. To say that he excelled would fall well short of the full story. A native of Lexington and a member of one of the final football teams at Old Lexington High, Robert had opportunities to continue his athletic and academic career elsewhere, including a football scholarship at William & Mary. His decision to stay here gave us one of this institution's most decorated athletes. Now, before we dissect his remarkable exploits on the football field, we should note that Robert also played 2 years as a lacrosse midfielder, a scary thought when you hear what follows, helping the Generals to a pair of Old Dominion Athletic Conference titles. As a junior, on somewhat of a whim, we're told, he also decided to join the wrestling team. Lucky Coach Gary Franke. Immediately, he was one of our best, winning 15 matches as a heavyweight. He advanced to the NCAA East Regional, where he eventually finished 4th overall. But back to the main storyline. Teammate John Twerty, class of 1996, says Robert was a local legend. He had just killed it in high school. He had uncommon strength and speed for a D3 athlete. Robert played football as a freshman, and he was a nice addition to the roster. But it wasn't until his second year here that fans got a glimpse of something special about to unfold. Coach Gavin Colleton had realized that Robert's talents would be best utilized as a defensive end instead of an interior lineman. Colleton says he just wanted to be in a position where he could find the ball and go. We wanted to get him on the field. We had to get him on the field, and it just took us a little while to figure it out. Frankly, he could have been a 4-time All-American if we'd just played him at defensive end as a freshman. Now, his friend Twerty has a slightly different take on the switch. The real truth, he says, is that Robert didn't really like playing nose tackle because you were often double-teamed and had guys diving at your legs. Coach Colleton switched us, says Twerty, but it was actually my willingness to play inside that truly allowed Robert, or Head as we called him, to shine. So thank you for your sacrifice, John. It is a team sport, isn't it? On the football field, Robert Hull truly shined. He played in all 37 games during his 4 years, starting all 28 games his final 3 seasons. He wound up with 335 tackles, 65 tackles for a loss, a school record 31 sacks. He forced 14 fumbles, recovered 7, and blocked 5 kicks. We can't resist recalling one such incident. One kicker remembers vividly one of those blocked kicks, even years later. He was at Sewanee. His name is Ward Cole, and he puts it this way. This huge guy busted his way through the line, essentially blocked the kick with his kneecap, and then proceeded to pummel me. I got up, essentially looking through my ear, and stumbled over to the wrong sideline. Former offensive coordinator Jeff Stickley and Colleton both note that Robert had only one gear, hard and fast all the time. They also recall something about practice. They say Robert had a lot of science labs, and truthfully, some of our guys were really happy when he wasn't at practice, because that meant they didn't have to try to block him. And if the offensive guys made him angry, he'd just go ahead and sack the quarterback to make his point. Stickley says you couldn't run to him, and you couldn't run away from him. You couldn't pass block him. In football, the ultimate compliment is when teams have to game plan around you. And according to his coaches, Robert was that kind of force. He was a 3-time first-team All-Conference and first-team All-State selection. He was selected to the Division III All-America team 3 times, including a first-team pick following his senior season in the fall of 1995 when he set a school record with 14 sacks. I'm just getting started. He was named Conference Player of the Year, Virginia College Division Player of the Year, Richmond Touchdown Club Division II and III Defensive Lineman of the Year, College Sports Magazine Division III Defensive Player of the Year, and was a finalist for the Gagliardi Award as the top player in all of Division III. Not surprisingly, he was named the W&L Senior Male Athlete of the Year in 1996. Some of you remember the E.F. Hutton commercial about getting recognition the old-fashioned way, by earning it. And so it is with Robert. His coaches say he deserved everything he got. He's the hardest working guy ever. Robert, then and now, you're a winner. You make your alma mater very proud. And frankly, we seem to be a little late inducting you now that we read that record. So in the words of a banner flying proudly on Jackson Avenue as we speak, please welcome Robert C. Hull, class of 1996, to the Washington and Lee Athletic Hall of Fame.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I have a lot of family and friends that have come in from all over the country, and I want to thank you all for coming. Thank you to W&L, the selection committee, all my friends, family, all the staff, and coaches here at Washington and Lee. There truly is no better place out there. Oddly enough, I was reminded earlier tonight, and when I was told to have a 2-minute speech, that this was almost a near miss, me coming to Washington and Lee. The admissions did not actually want me to stay in Lexington because they wanted me to get out and experience the world. Oddly enough, I found this to be a vastly different experience than the towny one that had existed before this. But my being inducted is a great honor, and I'm truly proud, and it doesn't matter if it's now or 5 years ago or 10 years from now. It's an honor no matter what, and great company, and congratulations to Therese and Coach Canfield. I was actually at your basketball camp when I was a kid. And Don, I'm sure I saw, well, actually I didn't see any games, but I'd heard about you when I was on the lacrosse field. Show me a man who is thoroughly satisfied, and I'll show you a failure. Poignant words from Thomas Jefferson that I learned when I was a little kid. And I always have strived to do the best, no matter what endeavor it is. One mind, any endeavor. Try to be the best. And for me, I was fortunate enough to be able to do those things for a great institution. Like I said, I was a near miss. I applied early, was waitlisted. I'm a little competitive, as my family will tell you. I said, well, you know what? I'll go to Hampton-Sydney, and I will kill them. But a week later, they changed their mind, and I got the thing. and all was forgotten. As well as everybody who's ever played sports, I have countless memories. I'm not going to delve into those. More than any of the, like they said, the scores or the games, although I want to point out that I still have eligibility for 3 more games, Frank. Okay, 37 games. I felt gypped. I've been watching lately. There's 40 games in a career for most of these kids, sometimes 41 if you guys hit the playoffs. So I'm still thinking we might be able to find a way to, maybe I'll go to law school for a year or something. But it's a fantastic place. The relationships that you build at this place are forever. I'm blessed enough to live in Lexington, and I get to watch the games year in and year out, and there's always a common thread, whether it's the freshman who becomes a senior and the next freshman. It's the tie that binds everybody together. And I think for Jim and every other player who's been inducted to the Hall of Fame, they feel the same way. And I think every true athlete knows what that's like. Success is something that you build for yourself by making the right decisions and working hard. And I think every person who's in the Hall of Fame has done that, and plenty who didn't get into the Hall of Fame or may someday probably work their tails off too. And it's everybody that makes the team, like they say. The massive men lead lives of quiet desperation, words that Thoreau wrote. And I've often thought I don't want to be one of those men. I want to achieve what I want to achieve, and I feel like my core is such that no matter what, it's going to happen. And if that means being the best I can as an individual and helping the team by being so, that's what I did. And I absolutely love this place. I can't tell you, I have one of my good family friends actually came back for a game for his son, who played 10 years later, and he said, "Man, Robert, you are a true blue right through the core," because of course I had WNL paraphernalia on from head to toe. But it's something that it will be in my heart forever, and I can't thank you enough. I know everybody's ready for bed or home, so with that, thank you very much, and I greatly appreciate it.
Before we draw to a close, I have a couple of reminders. And first of all, I want to thank or congratulate again all 4 inductees. Tomorrow afternoon at 11:30, there'll be a luncheon on Cannon Green for our inductees and their families and the out-of-town guests. I hope you can attend. There are several contests being played at WNL tomorrow. Women's soccer versus Eastern Mennonite at 11 o'clock. Football versus Averett at 1. Field hockey versus Virginia Wesleyan at 2 o'clock. Men's soccer versus Virginia Wesleyan at 3 o'clock. We hope that you can all come out and see them, our athletes play. I would like to ask that all the inductees, before you leave, if you would come back to the podium so that we can gather your plaques so that we can give them back to you tomorrow at halftime of our football game. Thank you very much for your attendance. It's a great day to be a general. We're adjourned.